just to show you how really off the rails this stuff has gotten in terms of logic. And I mentioned to you moments ago, the left is literally thinking about them, and you can find news stories. News, there isn't any news. You can find, quote-unquote, stories in the media about the plan to impeach Trump now. Now, I don't know how widespread it is, but I'm telling you it's real. There are people, a lot of maybe pundits, but you know as well as I do, it doesn't matter where you find a leftist. They're leftists. They're either disguised as journalists or elected Democrats or what have you. So pundit, journalist, commentator, pick your poison. They are suggesting that Trump be impeached, that he is such a threat that yesterday proves what a threat Donald Trump is. We can't wait 2 weeks. We can't wait till the 20th. We can't wait for Trump to be constitutionally disempowered. We can't wait for the peaceful transfer of power that Trump has now signaled he will participate in. We need to get rid of him now. Pelosi is being urged to come up with a couple of articles of impeachment that I joked earlier when I said Donald Trump sucks and Donald Trump's a windbag. They'll be more specific. Donald Trump is a danger to America. Donald Trump sponsors riots. Donald Trump sponsors looting, whatever. And then they want Mitch McConnell. Remember, the Republicans still run the Senate up until the 20th. Well, not till the 20th. But they want McConnell to call the Republicans, they call the Senate in and vote to convict Trump and impeachment. And they want the impeachment on the record. They want it in the official history of the United States that Donald John Trump was impeached and removed from office on whatever date. Now, what does that tell you? Man, Rush, they must really been vindictive. Nah, it's not vindictive. They're scared to death of the guy, folks. They're scared to death of the support for him that you exhibit. They are scared to death. They are deathly afraid that they will not succeed in forcing you to abandon Trump. Now, they've got a bunch of people in Washington who've thrown Trump overboard, but you haven't, and they are probably calculating that they don't think they will be able to. Here's some news from CNBC. Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer calls for Trump's immediate removal from office. He says that if Vice President Pence and the cabinet do not move to invoke the 25th Amendment, that Congress should reconvene to impeach Trump. Oh, yeah, you heard the 25th Amendment stuff, right? Oh, yeah. They want Pence. They want the vice president to lead the way on invoking the 25th Amendment. Trump is unfit, and they think they can get a bunch of people in the cabinet to agree with it. They want Trump forcibly removed. They want that on the record. They want to nullify his election any way they can. And this is the latest gambit. Impeachment or 25th Amendment. Then there's this story from Axios not too long ago. Here's the headline, and the headline pretty much says it all. Business leaders weigh cutting off funds to Republicans involved in electoral objections. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I finish, let me find something I know is really near the top of the stack of stuff here that I have, because it is really classic what is on tap. This is from Jim Cramer. So before I finish that Axios story, this is Jim Cramer from yesterday. It's his take on the stock market yesterday. Had somebody send me a note saying that they were really stunned that the stock market went up after the Democrat win in Georgia Tuesday. And the reason they were surprised is that most people figured that that would cause some selling off, since Democrats usually mean higher taxes and higher regulations. I have tried to explain to people that old relationship that Democrats are for the little guy and the Republicans are for the rich, that's out the window. That's gone. That's not applicable anymore. Excuse me. It's the Democrats that are the party of the rich. And they've been the party of the rich for I don't know how long now, but it's not a short period of time. They've been the party of the rich for a long time. The Republicans don't know what's happened to them. That's why the headline here, Business Leaders Weigh, W-E-I-G-H, put on the scales, business leaders weigh cutting off money to Republicans involved in electoral objections. Many of America's top business people have had enough of political pandering to the mob. They plan to deny future donations to those Republicans who egged it on. The reason it matters is that senators like Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz may have been auditioning for 2024 presidential runs, but they've alienated some of those who could have helped fund the campaigns. So there is a move on. If you're a Republican businessman, if you're a rich Republican, if you're one of these Republicans that doesn't care about the little guy, this is the phony cliche, then you're not going to get any money. You're going to be ignored. You're going to have no political power. It doesn't matter how much money you give to people. They're not going to accept it. Politicians, Democrat politicians, are not going to accept your money because you stand for Donald Trump and you stand for evil. Business leaders weigh cutting off funds to Republicans. We're in full imposition of leftist ideals now. Business leaders, i.e., take your pick of the phantom Republican Wall Street person, because most of them are now right aligned with Democrats. But any business leaders remaining aligned with Republicans are being threatened. We're going to cut off any kind of federal money, federal funding, whatever to you. So back to Jim Cramer and his take on the market. Now, excuse me again. Somebody thinking that the market would go down with Democrats winning the Senate, who runs the market? Democrats. The stock market has been the lone respite for wealth in America, not the little guy, not Main Street. And who's in the stock market? The Democrat Party. This whole idea that the Democrats are the enemies of the rich, that hasn't been the case for 20 years. So here's Jim Cramer's take. The market sees the higher taxes, sees that higher taxes will now go on corporations, meaning middle-income people are going to get that tax passed on down to them. In other words, the Trump tax cuts are going to be repealed as quickly as possible. Corporations don't pay taxes. They pass them on. They pass them down. It means middle-income people, customers, are going to pay higher taxes in the form of more expensive consumer costs. Higher income people will be getting a big tax break in the repeal of the limit on deductions of state and local taxes. Remember when Trump came along, limited the deductibility of state income taxes in certain wealthy blue states. Remember how that ticked them off? Oh, they were fit to be tied. You don't raise their taxes. You raise taxes on the little guy. So those blue states are going to see an immediate repeal of the SALT tax, meaning they're going to get richer. Who's going to make them richer? Democrat Party. Higher income people are going to likewise keep their inheritance tax break due to fancy lawyering in the Senate committees. You may not know it, but favorable inheritance tax breaks have been part of recent tax policy. They're not going to change. Who benefits? The wealthy and the rich. And who's going to make them richer? The Democrats. Middle-income people, on the other hand, are going to get hit hard by the soon-to-come non-step-up in inherited assets. So if you're middle income, and that's we'll say up to say 120 grand max, you're going to get hit very hard because soon they're going to stop inflating the value of inherited assets, or they're going to inflate inherited assets, and then they're going to eliminate that which is making inherited assets advantageous. So the middle class is going to get poorer. And who is making them poorer? The Democrats are. And then Kramer says the list could go on. But the rich, who are now the biggest contributors and the best supporters of Democrats, why, they're going to be protected. The rest of us get higher taxes, higher costs of living. Who is going to bring higher taxes and higher costs of living to the little guy? The Democrats. Now, how many people do you think voted for the Democrats back in November think they were voting against the rich? Yeah. A lot of them did. A lot of them think by voting for Biden that they were voting to get even with these ugly rich people. Just the exact opposite is going to happen. Now, the poor, the downtrodden, the homeless, the hungry, the thirsty, illegal immigrants, they're going to get additional government benefits. They're going to get some stimulus checks. They're going to be kept happy on the government plantation for voting Democrat in 2022. Make sure they vote in 2022 for Democrats. That's how it's done. You always play forward. You always protect your supporters, i.e. the rich. You punish your opponents, i.e. the middle class, as it has evolved. And you get more and more people. You need a permanent underclass. Remember, the Democrats need a permanent underclass of people that are totally dependent on government, on them. So, summation, Jim Cramer, if you have a job, if you are a small business, if you have some few built-up retirement assets, the Democrats are going to hit you. Democrats are going to come for you. They're going to take some more of what you have while telling you they're taking it from the rich. And you're going to applaud it. Yeah, it's about time the rich started paying their fair share. How often do you still hear that? You still hear this. The rich haven't been paying their quote-unquote fair share in who knows how long, but the whole notion of a fair share is bogus anyway. If you ask me, and if you care, I'll explain why later on in the program. But that doesn't matter. They've got this slogan that works for them. Why should they give it up? The rich aren't paying their fair share, and the Democrats are going to keep whittling away at it. So, bottom line is the stock market is now in the total control of the rich, elite socialists. It is the reservoir of their wealth. Now, there are some Republicans in there whose wealth is in the stock market. They're going to be very quiet. They're not going to want to call attention to themselves. They're not going to want the rich, elite socialists who run the stock market to kick them out of it. We'll take a break and be back right after this.